So this morning we look at Genesis chapter 28. Genesis chapter 28 and verses 10 to 17. But before we look at that, we look at this passage this morning because we see a God who is transformative. A God who is with people in their ups and their downs. A God who is already in the place, ready to be with them. A God who is in a place where we are already, and He is already. And as we look at this passage, you will see that. And this particular encounter with God happens when Jacob is in serious conflict with his brother. And you'll remember that Esau wants to kill him in chapter 27:41. Jacob is grasping his younger brother as his grasp was kind of loosened. Their relationship is tensioned. He's been tricked out of his birthright. He's taken Esau's future security from him and left him with nothing. And so Jacob goes on the run. He runs away. And then he meets God in the place he least expects to meet him. And the dream unfolds. And it's entitled Jacob's Dream at Bethel. Jacob left Beersheba and set out for Haran. When he reached a certain place, he stopped for the night because the sun had set. Taking one of the stones there, he put it under his head and lay down to sleep. He had a dream in which he saw a stairway resting on the earth with its top reaching to heaven. And the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. There above it stood the Lord, and he said, I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham and the God of Isaac. I will give you and your descendants the land on which you are lying. Your descendants will be like the dust of the earth, and you will spread out to the west and to the east, to the north and to the south. All peoples on earth will be blessed through you and your offspring. I am with you and will watch over you wherever you go, and will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you. When Jacob awoke from his sleep, he thought, surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it. He was afraid and said, how awesome is this place. This is none other than the house of God. This is the gate of heaven. What a beautiful encounter he has with God. So the message is, be the good news wherever you may find yourself, wherever you are already placed. You see, many Christians think that sharing the good news means going somewhere else, doing something extraordinary, or waiting for that, that special moment. I'm waiting for that special moment. But what if God has already placed you exactly where He wants you? At THQ, in your school, in your neighborhood. We talk about frontline, and you watch the video, and LICC use that term, frontline, the everyday places where we spend our lives, our workplace, our neighborhood, our family, school, gym, club, coffee shop, or community group. And Genesis 28 reminds us that God meets us in the ordinary places of life. And he sends ordinary people to reveal his presence there. You see, God met Jacob on his front line. Jacob wasn't in a temple. He wasn't in worship. He was on a dusty road, sleeping on a stone pillow. Now, it sounds like he's just left with nothing. If we were going on a dusty road, Kath would make sure that I had a lovely, soft place to lay my head. And she would literally give up her jumper or whatever she had on her and make sure that I was comfortable. I would do the same, by the way. Okay, I'm not saying it would just be a one-way street. I'd make sure we were comfortable. But to put your head on just a piece of stone. But this is a resting place. This is a place people would have stopped. Overnight, as the sun went down, this was a place that people would have stopped regularly. Travelers would have stopped. But on this occasion, something happens. Something happens. And it's nothing unusual, is it? It's nothing unusual for God to show up. He meets Moses in a burning bush. Elijah not in a whirlwind, but in a whisper at the doorway of a cave. He speaks to Elijah. Zacchaeus up a tree. The woman at the well. Peter at his workplace on the beach. And so God meets him. You see, Jacob discovers that the place he thought was ordinary was actually a place where God was already at work. And likewise, your front line may seem ordinary. It's another day, another dime. Your office, your classroom, the care home maybe, where we go and visit, the football club where we mix with our friends, the school gate where we take our kids. God is already there. And I suppose the question isn't, how do I get to where God is working? The question is, can I see that God is already working where I am? Is God, can you see that? Where is God working where I am? And God promises his presence. The heart of God's promise to Jacob was simple. I am with you. And we read it so often in Scripture. I am with you. He didn't say to Jacob, go find a special place. He promised to accompany him in every place he was. And the same is true for you and I. When you walk into work tomorrow morning, this time tomorrow, Jesus goes with you. When you care for your family member, Jesus is with you. When you chat to your neighbor on the driveway, and often I think I drive Kath nuts because we get out the car, my neighbor will be there, and then I don't enter the house for about half an hour. And by that time, tea's ready, and she wonders where I've got to. But you know what? When I'm talking to my neighbor on the driveway, Jesus is there. Just this week, I had an email, and the email simply said, "Hi, Allister. I met you in the park a few days ago, walking the dog. Can we talk? I want to ask you something." So I phoned him up. You see, our front line is not where we leave our faith behind and we only pick it up on a Sunday. It's where we live, where we are present. And Jacob had a new realization. Jacob woke up and said, surely the Lord is in this place and I was not aware of it. The turning point. Not that God suddenly arrived. God was there. What if every follower of Jesus Christ woke up each morning, believed that the Lord is in this place? Wouldn't that transform you? Wouldn't that put a spring in your step? See, the Lord is in my community. The Lord is in my workplace. The Lord is in my street. He's in my school. He's in my university. When we see the front line in this way, everything for us changes. We had somebody come to Strawberry Field, and he'd known us from we just met briefly, one day at Peterborough. Cool. And anyway, he came to Strawberry Field and happened to have the divisional commander with us at the time. And this gentleman said, oh, so what do you do here? I said, I'm the mission development officer. He said, oh, right, okay, so you guys aren't on the front line anymore. I have to say, for the first time in my officership, or maybe not the first, I saw red. I thought to myself, ugh. And the DC jumped in. He said, the front line, this is the front line. God's here. God's at work, yeah. And I said to him, of course I'm on the front line. I said, 120,000 people come through this place. People we may never see again. People coming looking for John Lennon, and they find Jesus. That's a great one, isn't it? I'm coming looking for the big J, the big John, and they find the big Jesus at work. Because God's Spirit is at work. And it was just a few days after that, I'd gone downstairs. I'd seen a couple from, which I assumed were from China. They were in the garden, a little girl, beautiful little bows, and her hair was superb. And I went out in the garden. Mom and Dad were with them, and they were having a picnic. And as I approached, because of the uniform, the gentleman said, we allowed? I said, yeah, you know. I had a long chat to them, and as I was chatting, I complimented the girl on her lovely bow and everything else, and the gentleman looked at this and he said, what's that? Somebody coming looking for the big J, yeah? Here's the big J story. What's that? And I said, well, it's the Salvation Army. I said, we're a Christian church, but also charity, and we love God. And he looked at his wife, and he said, we're from China, no Christianity. And I said, yeah, okay, yeah, communist. And then he looked at his wife again. He said, you read Bible? I said, yeah, I read the Bible. He said, God? Very broken English. I said, yeah, we love God. He said, we're not Christian, not done formality. And I stood there and I thought to myself, it was one of those moments my hand shakes. I want to warn you, if my hand starts shaking, you're in trouble. Okay? If I start getting like that more than normal, you know God's going to say something through me. And I looked at him and I said, you don't need formality. I said, do you love God? Yeah. I said, are you sorry for what you've done? Yeah. Will you follow Jesus? Yeah. Blow me down. He looked at his wife and he said, we are Christian. We are Christian. And they both beamed. Jacob's ladder. Yeah? The heavenly realm meets the earthly realm. Opens the gate. God opens the gate. Opens the door. Did I expect that day? No, apparently I was not on the front line anymore. Because I didn't have a congregation. I didn't have a band. I didn't have a songster. I didn't have a singing company. I didn't have those midweek activities that everybody would see in core life. Of course, I'm on the front line. You are on the front line. Just where you find yourself. And God shows up when we don't expect it. See, how do we be the good news? You may be sitting there wanting, thinking, I don't know, I don't really want to preach at anybody. And we're not asking you to preach at anybody. We're not asking you to go everywhere you go and say, hey, do you know Jesus? We're not asking you to do that. When the moment comes, you may want to use that believer's prayer and invite somebody to accept Jesus into their life. We don't have to preach a sermon, but we can all speak words of encouragement when someone's feeling low. We can all show those acts of kindness. We can work with integrity. We can offer help where it's needed. We can pray for people. And don't say, I'll pray for you. Pray there and then. Say, would you mind if we prayed now? No time like the present. We can bring hope. We can bring hope. We can share why Jesus matters to us. And the cards are still there if you want to write your story. What the actions? God's story. His story. Our story. My story. Yeah, do you remember? We share the good news with our words, but we share the good news with our lives as well. The way we live. The way we live. Jacob discovered that an ordinary place was holy ground because God was there. Your front line may be ordinary, but God is already present. God is there. You don't need to go anywhere else to serve God. Serve Him where you are. On your front line. Maybe a front line that we don't even know about. You know, Jamie will serve God on her front line. And she'll be empowered because we've prayed for her this morning. We have to believe that as well. And wherever you find yourself, remember Jacob's words. Surely the Lord is in this place. Your classroom. Your office. Your study at home. While you work from home. God is in that place. Share the good news where you are. Be the good news where you are. We're going to sing a song. God showed us through His Son what it meant to come to earth, live among us, and be Jesus. With us, the servant king. I'm going to invite you to stand as we sing together the servant king. And as you sing those words this morning, I simply want you to ask God, where will you place me this week? Where will you help me be your servant? Where will you help me speak the name of Jesus or live like Jesus this week? And maybe someone needs to offer their life to God this morning. Maybe someone needs to come and say, I want to accept Jesus into my life and say, I love God. I'm sorry for what I've done. I want to follow Jesus. Maybe someone needs to do that this morning. Just over here, you may want to just come and stand and we'll pray over you. For those that have been on the road a long while and your relationship's good with God, you may want to just ask God to empower you again. Maybe you've lost your effectiveness. Maybe you just need that little bit of a spark again to say, just where He needs me, my Lord has placed me. God, where will you place me this week? Show me my front line this week. Again, respond as you need to this morning. Thank you.
The